Step into the world of hilarity and storytelling with The King Ducky Show. Join the one and only King Ducky on a journey filled with laughter, wit, and endless entertainment. Whether it's sharing hilarious tales from his or interviewing the most eccentric characters, each episode promises to tickle your funny bone and ignite your imagination. So gather round and enjoy the Laughter Brigade. Subscribe to The King Ducky Show on your favorite podcast platform today. It's The King Ducky Show, where every tale is crowned with laughter. The podcast can be found on all music streaming services.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, let's get going here on the Mailbag, part 2 of the Mailbag. I think this is going to be a pattern now of Mailbag part 2s because there's no way part 1s and only ones are going to be able to suffice given the volume, but we are doing the best we can to get through everyone's emails and voicemails. We'll see if we can get through them all today. If we can't, then we can't. As I said last week, it may be where, people just have to start accepting that if they send an email or voicemail in, it may or may not be read. If you're a patron, you will get priority placement and you will be able to get your email on the show. But if you are a non-patron, at this point, we're kind of rolling the dice, but I still encourage everybody to send an email in and we'll read it as we can. But consider going on Patreon, guys. It's a great way to go ad-free and get all of your emails read. All right. Time to dive back in to the emails bag here. Let me reach in and see who comes out. I should have a sound effect, should I not? All right. Let's talk to, let's see. This is a first email. This is Duncan from England, and he says, "Hey, Matt, enjoy the show. I listen a lot while I'm at the gym. My first time writing in. I got back into WWE after 20 years away in the first lockdown in 2020. When I decided to rewatch Raw, SmackDown, and every pay-per-view chronologically from 2000 to 2001. After that, I just watched every pay-per-view in order until I got to the present day, and now I watch every Raw, SmackDown, and PLE as I'm listening to your show." That's awesome. And boy, that takes a lot of commitment, Duncan, I have to say. A lot of commitment, a lot of time there. So I admire that. Anyway, here's my card for WrestleMania. Your winners are in green. So here's what I like this. All right, so here we go. Night 1, you have Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre with Drew McIntyre winning. You have Bayley versus Io Sky with Bayley winning. Tag titles of Judgment Day versus Awesome Truth and Awesome Truth winning. The Intercontinental Championship, you have a fatal four-way. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you don't. You have Gunther versus Sami Zayn with Sami Zayn winning. Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso with Jimmy Uso winning. And then you have The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins in a tag team match with The Rock and Roman winning. On night 2, you have Cody versus Roman with Roman winning. Wait a minute. I think I just you're going to set the world on fire, Duncan. If Roman Reigns retains, oh my God. Rhea Ripley beats Becky Lynch. LA Knight wins the United States Championship ladder match. And Bianca Belair beats Tiffany Stratton. And Karrion Kross and the AOP beat Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. Well, I like your card, but the problem is some of these have been disproven already. And that's because, we saw some progress with, I'm sorry. I'm looking at your United States Championship ladder match. Oh no, you did. Okay. You did have 6 people. But I think it's going to be AJ Styles versus LA Knight one-on-one. Logan Paul versus Randy Orton seems to also be in the card. So I don't know who's going to challenge for the Intercontinental Championship because I think Sami Zayn's out of that too. But generally, you have a pretty interesting card. Let's see. Let's continue with your email. I'd love to see Damian win the world title from Drew. I don't think or feel like he would need to do much to turn babyface, and he could have some great matches against Drew's current character. It would be so interesting to see how Drew coped or failed to cope with his WrestleMania moment being spoiled with fans. And if Cody does win, does that mean he automatically moves to SmackDown? They seem like they have enough babyface main event guys on SmackDown, but not a top-level heel for him to feud with. Also, if they had already decided on Rock and Roman at Mania, then that would also probably mean they intended for Roman to retain until September, at least until, and just because Cody got his match. That doesn't necessarily mean that the plan will have changed. Keep up the good work. I mentioned that on the part 1 of the mailbag. I don't know what they do if Cody wins. I mean, does he go to SmackDown? Does he not? The ultimate end game is, though, you can't have both world titles, both major titles on the same brand. So whether Cody moves to SmackDown or Cody stays on Raw with the Undisputed Championship and then the world champion moves to SmackDown, you could do that. But you can't obviously have SmackDown with no champion. You can't do it. I mean, you got 2 belts. That wouldn't make any sense. Thanks, Duncan. Good stuff. Let's talk to Sage. Sage says, 1, if Seth loses to Drew, I just can't see Seth showing up later that night in the Cody Roman match and saying, hey, buddy, I'm pissed. I just lost my belt, even though you weren't there, but I got your back. I truly think a Seth heel turn could be coming either at WrestleMania or after Cody wins the belt. Most definitely if he loses to Drew or in a Priest cash-in. A title loss will send him down a dark path. It might, but he's also been champion for nearly a year. Close. We're a couple months away, but he's getting closer to a year. I mean, it's not like he's had a bad string of luck. I mean, he's been on top forever in relative terms. So I don't think that'll send him down a dark path, but I have heard many people discussing and hoping for a Seth heel turn. I don't think we're quite there yet. And it's because we've seen so many Seth years with him as a heel that this babyface run is still enjoyable. I don't think fans are going to organically boo him yet, but I think it is coming in the next I'd say 12 to 18 months or sometime. Really, I mean, as soon as WrestleMania, you could have it done, but Seth is on a roll still. He's still connecting with the fans. It doesn't feel like his babyface run is done yet. It feels like he's like 75% of the way through it. But I hear you. And Seth as a heel would be very interesting. What does that look like again? However, him versus Roman is also on the table at some point, and I want Seth to be a babyface in that exchange. 2, the first 2 PLEs have been a bit predictable and underwhelming. Although the match quality has been good, just compared to some of last year's PLEs, I've left disappointed. It makes me appreciate how good the 2023 PLEs were. Well, I mean, it's 2, right? 2 out of 12 that they have a year. Not the worst if you are, according to you. 2023 PLEs, outside of, I mean, I didn't like SummerSlam, honestly. And predictability, you have to weigh that relatively. Meaning, if predictability to you is very important, meaning if it's predictable, it automatically is not good, then yeah, you're not going to have a very good year thus far, because so far Triple H has not done anything shocking. And if you look at it, though, from a different perspective of, well, predictability isn't fun, but I would accept predictability if it's the right move. You know, oftentimes predictable outcomes and the right outcome are the same. Contrastly, oftentimes unpredictability and the right outcome are not always, and usually less likely to be, simultaneously present. Do you know what I mean? I mean, unpredictable and also the right thing to do is... It's not a combination that comes along very often, which is why you don't see it very often. You can do unpredictable, and it'll create a shock in the moment and a lot of buzz. But then you look back and, you know, you may question WWE in a couple weeks or a month, and you're like, well, that was a dumb move. So which would you rather have? But number 3, who do you think is next to turn face? Gunther, Roman Reigns, Damian Priest. My thinking is Gunther, and it could happen sooner than later. Just wanted your thoughts. Yes, I would agree. And the reason is, Gunther's probably going to lose his IC title at WrestleMania, and that's totally fine. He's had a historic run, and that's the understatement of the year. But after he loses, he may get one rematch, but he's going to move into that world title picture, I think, pretty quickly after WrestleMania. I think. I mean, you could wait and have it done at SummerSlam, or you could have it burn all the way till next year's WrestleMania, but Gunther's too good and too big of a name and too well respected right now to, I think, even wait a year. I mean, I would pull the Gunther trigger on challenging at the latest by SummerSlam for the world title. And by that time, I think you'll still have a heel champion, whether it's Damian Priest or Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre versus Gunther sounds like a lot of fun to me. So I would agree with you. I don't want Roman Reigns turning babyface yet. Not the time, because you're still building to Roman Reigns versus The Rock next year at WrestleMania 41. And at that point, you still don't want a heel Rock against the babyface Roman. I don't know why we're trying to pretend that that's a better option. Even though The Rock as a heel is entertaining, he's so entertaining that he's going to turn himself back babyface organically. And after Cody wins, the problem of the Cody crybabies goes away, that Cody gets what he wants and the fans get what Cody thinks that he deserves. So that problem erases itself. Rock is still super entertaining. The fans are going to enjoy it and turn him back babyface, and then you have the perfect setup. There's no need to try to continue with a Roman Reigns or attempt yet a Roman Reigns babyface turn. Now, that said, it's coming and it's going to be, I think, massively successful, but it's not ready yet. I would say after WrestleMania 41 now. All right. Thank you, buddy. Thanks, Sage. All right. Let's talk to Tut. Let's talk to Tut, or Kevin. And he says, "Hi, Matt. Well, my sons and I are trying to stay optimistic, but this current rematch WrestleMania card is so far below the WrestleMania expectations we had heading into the Royal Rumble that it's difficult. We were realistically looking at a minimum of 5 top-tier matches: Rock, Roman, Rollins, Punk, Gunther, Brock, and Knight and Paul, and what could have been Cody and Orton. We now find ourselves with none of these huge matches, but instead we have 2 rematches of Cody and Roman and Rollins and McIntyre as our main events. And they are rematches that are so predictably skewed towards Cody and Drew winning the title that it won't at all be exciting to witness. Help lift our spirits. Sell us on why this can be still the greatest and biggest WrestleMania match of all, or WrestleMania of all time. Sincerely, Attorney Tut." Okay. Well, I will say this. Even though they are rematches in the sense that we've seen Rollins and McIntyre in the last few months, but not at WrestleMania, and Roman Cody is a direct rematch from last year, the outcomes, while predictable, you have to remember this. I'm going to sell you on this, okay? Because this, I think, will help. It's WrestleMania. Now, I could stop there. But if you've been a fan of wrestling for a number of years, 5-10 years even, you know WrestleMania is a time to do crazy things. It's a time to do things that you normally wouldn't do even on a pay-per-view during the year, even at SummerSlam. WrestleMania is a time for epic returns. It's a time for unpredictable outcomes. And it's a time for big moments. They always tout those moments, do they not? So sure, Roman Cody is a rematch. But here's the thing. You're not going to get the same finish. Even if you think Cody's going to win, we don't know that for sure. Think about last year. We all thought, well, it's got to be Cody winning. What did they do? Roman retained. And they had a hell of a match. So you know the match quality is going to be A+. But also there's the outliers of, could we have massive legendary names interfere in this? I mean, The Rock seems to be on the fringe of interfering here, whether to help or hurt Cody. We've heard names of Stone Cold Steve Austin getting involved to level the playing field. It's not just me who's been saying this. He could end up leveling the playing field to help Cody if The Rock gets involved and have Austin stun The Rock at WrestleMania. How effing awesome would that be? Not to start a program with The Rock, just a single stunner. I mean, you could really do some fun things without overbooking. There's a lot of potential here. And also think about, what if Roman retains again? Is that not a fun outcome? Yes, it's a rematch, but what if Roman Reigns still retains? What then? I would love to see the reaction. And as far as Rollins and Drew goes, I mean, yeah, we just had a series of matches with them, but how good were they? And also there's the looming Damian Priest out there. And Drew McIntyre deserves his moment. So there's a lot to really, I'm excited for it. However, when you look back at the matches that we all thought we were going to get and WWE thought they were going to put out there, yeah, it's amazing. If you had said to me or anybody just a few months ago, before all the injuries and the litigation against Brock, Rock Roman, Rollins Punk, Gunther Brock, Knight and Paul, and Cody versus Orton, and you told me we're going to go 0 for 5 on those matches and none of them are happening, nobody would agree. No, they would have said, you're out of your mind. At least 4 or 5 of these is happening. Maybe something wacky could happen where one of them, WWE switches up their plans last second. 0 for 5 on that original card. Pretty amazing how quickly everything can change. So thank you. Good stuff. All right, let's go. This is a response to, okay, this is going to get a little, I'm going to have to censor some of this email. Okay, this is from Dan. And here we go. Casual listener, casual wrestling fan. Wanted to share a story that really changed my views and put me in my place. Okay, that's not a good start. Okay, because I feel like, without even reading the body of your email, that the purpose of this email is to try to, quote, put other men in their place. Bad start to the email. However, I'll give it a chance. I haven't read anything else. Let's go. Getting a workout at the gym, my headphones died. I overheard 2 guys talking trash about a girl they know. She's an S. She's easy. And you guys can probably fill in the blanks with the words I'm censoring. I did XYZ to her. She's a B, etc. I didn't say anything to them, just chalked it up to locker room talk or whatever. But it bugged me enough that I said something to my wife when I got home. She looked at me in the eye and said, quote, if they were talking about black people, would you have said something? Of course. Oh, this is getting... All right. All right, let's continue, but I'm going to be selective on how I respond to this because we're trying to keep it about wrestling. But let's see how this plays out. So she then says Jews, Muslims, gays, mentally, physically challenged, and you said yes, yes, yes. Think about that. For literally anyone else, I would have gotten into those guys and maybe got beat up, but definitely would say my piece, but not for women. Why is that? And I'm one of the good guys, right? The point, yeah, what's the point? So your point is, we're not the same. As men, we do not know and never will know what it's like to be walking their shoes, figuratively. No matter what class, color, or appearance, this is why they stand up for themselves in ways that can seem dominant or even aggressive. Someone has to. I challenge any male out there, when your buddies or strangers are talking S about women, don't let it slide. Say something, they're worth it. Okay. This is very difficult in the context of a pro wrestling podcast to respond to because I want to respond to it in a way that is not wrestling related at all. I mean, this really had nothing to do with wrestling, obviously. And it's difficult in the constructs of my promise to you guys as wrestling listeners to not get into politics or that kind of thing. What I may do, because this one I want to respond to pretty aggressively, and I don't mean that I'm going to shout and yell, but I also mean it in the way that I really want to say things that are not about wrestling. So perhaps I'll put it on my Patreon feed for patrons that want to listen, because I have, and this isn't for you. I mean, I'm not asking Dan, I'm not asking you to sign up. Well, pay me to go listen to my response. That's not what I'm trying to sell you. I just want to keep my free feed inside of wrestling world. But I will say this to this email. Okay, Dan, it sounds like, and I mean, this just is what it sounds like to me, that you are a male feminist. That's what it sounds like to me. Okay. And take that for good or bad. You interpret that. If you're proud to be one, cool. If you're not, I'm just telling you how I think it comes across. Again, It's just an observation. Now, I don't see, in a world where, I mean, are you saying women generally are oppressed? I guess that's the message. But you're taking these victim groups that are perceived to be victim groups anyway, perceived to be victim groups. And you are saying, well, if they're part of this victim group, I'll stand up for them. But if they're in this perceived victim group, I wasn't going to do it for women. Apparently you're categorizing women as a victim group. But why? I mean, women have never been more celebrated ever in the history of the world. They have equal protections under the law. There is no right that I have as a man that any woman in the world, in the United States anyway, doesn't have. All right. So equal protection under the law. And I don't want to hear about the gender pay gap. That's a whole nother issue I'm going to talk about maybe on another non-free feed show. So this is a very difficult one for me to respond to. But so you're saying it's our responsibility to say something as if that's going to change someone's mind? Have you ever been into a men's locker room? Do you think that men, when they hang out, speak very politely, respectfully, very eloquently? No. I mean, have you been to a high school before? Any sports locker room? Do you think it gets any better? I mean, if that's how men speak, that's kind of how they speak. Now, not all men. And I will say there are public places in which, it's just common sense to not speak vulgarities loudly where people can hear. I would agree with that. Like public spaces, especially if you're in a place with kids could be, or using your common sense. If you're right next to a stranger and you're speaking like this, I mean, I don't care that it's in the context of oh, well, women are victims. It's just vulgarities and really just talking about garbage that no one wants to hear when they can hear it. Like if you try to do it more quietly, if you know that you shouldn't be saying it publicly, but you just kind of whisper it and you're making an attempt to try to be a little subtle, that's to me a little bit better. But I mean, I don't know what Jews and Muslims and gays and mentally and physically challenged people have to do with anything here. I guess this is in contrast to my point about Rhea Ripley last night that I knew was going to stir up some people, which is fine. It is what it is. And I don't back down a single word of what I said. Nothing. I think Rhea Ripley, specifically talking about the fans and Maxine Dupree, which is ridiculous that she thinks that she can just tell us how to feel or how we should act towards a specific wrestler, is ridiculous. The entitlement there is, a little bit, it's a little bit on display. But let me just finish with this and then we'll move on. Your point, the main point of your email, you said, is that we're not the same. You're right. Men and women are different. Men and women are different. Yes, they are. And also, as men, we don't know what it will ever be like to walk in women's shoes. Well, what about the reverse? What exactly are we supposed to take away from this? I mean, yeah, but also women don't know what it's like to walk in the man's shoes. But the idea is, I'm guessing that you believe, men have no issues. Every problem that happens to a woman is because she's just a victim. She's helpless. The patriarchy is alive and well. I would guess you believe that too. But that's why they stand up for themselves in ways that can seem dominant or aggressive. Well, what scenario are you talking about? What protections do women not have that you think that they don't have to you that they should? But also the reverse here, Dan. What if your statement was this? Ready? I'm going to change your statement just at the end where you say, I challenge any male out there, but let's pretend it's women. I challenge any female out there. When your buddies or strangers are talking S about men, don't let it slide. Say something. They're worth it. So if I said that, or if how does that make you feel? I'm guessing to you, it changes the entire narrative. Well, that's not true. So you don't believe that if women are out there, so let's say you have a friend that's a woman and she's out there just bashing men and how terrible they are. They're all garbage. They're pieces of S. And they're talking about, but then also some of them are talking about what they did from a physical standpoint with their boyfriend the last night. would you go up and like, hey, girls, listen, can you tone it down a bit? It's a bit offensive. And also, why is it your job to police people? Why is it your job to police people on what they can say or what you think is right or wrong? I mean, they weren't also talking to the women. They were talking to other guys about women. So now you're going to go over there and what? Tell them, oh, that's offensive. So are you being offended on behalf of women? That doesn't make any sense. Again, there's more I could say. I think I've already crossed the line of not talking about wrestling a long time ago. But hey, both groups, both men, both women, I think we agree on one thing, and that's probably the only thing, is that men and women are different. And both men and women are guilty of trashing the other sex just on a general basis. All men suck. All women suck. Men are garbage. Men are all players and cheaters. And then the guys will say, oh, they're all S's and they're all easy. And blah, blah, blah. Do they not both have criticisms that are very stereotypical of the other sex? Of course they do. But why is it only okay when women do it and the men, if you hear a man doing it, you feel the urge to stand up for all women? In what way? Why do you have to? If women are so empowered, as you say, and they stand up for themselves, why does a man need to come in and help them? It's kind of contradictory to your point. Also, last thing, I keep saying that, but it is. Do you also, it's just a question. Do you also believe that if I told you right now I'm a woman, what would you say? I say I identify as a woman. I'll leave it there. All right. Boy, things are getting raucous here. Let's get back to wrestling if you haven't already skipped over all that. All right. This is getting... I'm going to read part of this because I'm ready to get to the voicemails. Because these emails are just... I'm sorry, guys. Some of these are too long. Jackson from Melbourne... And Jackson from Melbourne, Australia says, I got to Melbourne from Elimination Chamber, and whilst Tiffy was incredibly over, the second most over in the match was Liv. Only time she was booed was when she eliminated Tiffy. Other than that, whenever she did something, she was heavily cheered. Probably didn't come across on TV as Optus Stadium is an open roof. I've watched the Chamber back, and it definitely seems like we were not loud in the moment, but this past Saturday night, the entire time in the actual stadium was deafening. I mean, that's good to hear because I was very down on the reaction for Liv. It sounded like she got no reaction. I mean, it just did. But so, yeah, I believe you. You were there. I wasn't. Raquel was also booed the entire time except for her entrance where it was mixed. There were also Tiffy time chants during the men's chamber that didn't come across on TV. See, that's the danger of an open roof stadium or no roof stadium. All the sound escapes, man. It sucks. The audio and visual issues you're talking about during the chamber with a crowd chanting "F you, Dom." Dom's I think I know what you're saying. And after getting ejected from the front few rows, we're sticking to the middle finger up at him, hence the black screen. Oh, okay. When I watched Dom trying to speak on replay on the TV, I could actually sort of make out what he was saying. In person, I couldn't even hear his voice at all. In your complaint with Logan Paul getting back into the chamber, he never actually exited. He went off to the side. Okay, well, the cameras didn't really pick up on that, so that's the reason I thought. I was like, how did he get back in? Gotcha. Okay. Which Rhea, she was massively cheered, and I could barely hear myself think, and we were indeed cheering the entire time, but it just didn't come across on TV. The three most over non-Aussies were easily Tiff, who's now an honorary Aussie, Randy and Cody, and as much as Nia wants to claim she's an Aussie in recent years, we don't claim her, we don't effing want her, and we wish her for never to be allowed back in our country. As much as this was a forgettable PLE, I went in with zero expectations, and I know that may not have a chance to experience a WWE PLE again, and had an amazing time. Atmosphere was amazing, wrestling was great, and as well, the sports entertainment. Thanks, have a good one. Jackson, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. We won't be... I don't want to claim Nia Jax either, but I will say she is really undeniably improved. She's undeniably improved Oh, that's a nice undeniably. Did I just create something for Naya? There you go, Naya. Use that for some T-shirts or something. Come up with. There's something there. I don't know what it is, what phrase or marketing or whatever. But if you're undeniably improved, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. All right, let's move on. Let's talk to. Let's see. I know, guys. There's a few emails here I haven't even got to, but I've got to get to the voicemails, at least some of them. So let's do.
What's going on, WWE Podcast World? This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show, recording to you live on a Wednesday morning. It's very windy, kind of rainy, kind of cloudy, Wednesday morning. And before we get to the Veer Mahan report, I just hope that next year's Elimination Chamber is not at 5 a.m. You guys overseas were so lucky to have to watch this Elimination Chamber at 12 o'clock lunchtime or whatever time that was convenient for you all overseas. With all of the multiple time differences and time zones, I just hope that next year we have a PLE Elimination Chamber back here in the States. That 5 a.m. was a little bit gruesome. I gotta say, it was a little bit tough. I was stuck on my overnight shift job, so I wasn't able to watch it. I had to watch it on replay and avoid all spoilers from social media and Discord. But anyway, I want to say that, did anybody heard of Perth, Australia before this Elimination Chamber PLE? Because this is the first time I heard about Perth, Australia. You know, before this PLE, the only things that I knew about Australia was Sydney, Australia, and the fact that they had a Summer Olympics in Australia back in 2000. So, I don't know, I feel so inclined to want to travel to Perth, Australia and suffer the 20-hour trip to Perth, Australia. It's beautiful. WWE just convinced me that I want to travel to Perth, Australia. I don't know about you, but I want to go to Perth, Australia just to escape this coldness that we're having up here in the Northeast. But anyway, let's get to, before I go on a further rant about Perth, Australia, let's get to your favorite show to come in every single week on the Mailbag. And I'm talking about the Veer Mahan Report. Now, the Veer Mahan Report took place this past Monday night on Monday Night Raw, live from San Jose, California. And before we get to the Veer Mahan, before we get to the Indus Share, we did get an appearance of the one, the only, R-Truth, as he has came back from Austria. Now back to the Indus Share. You know the whole deal. No shows, no vignettes, no appearances backstage. I don't know what's going on, and I need to get some answers, Triple H. I need to get some answers as to what is the future of the Indus Share. Are they still going to be on the main roster, or are they going to be departing to NXT? Now, with that being said, this is your guy, DJ Kuzmo. Have a blessed week. Be kind to one another. See you soon, my friends, and peace.
DJ, yeah, I've never heard of Perth. Usually, I mean, the only place that everyone outside of Australia knows is just Sydney. That's it. Right? I mean, I would challenge anybody who's not living in Australia to name another city in Australia outside of Sydney. That's all we know. So when we heard Perth, we're like, where's that? We're thinking, it's probably somewhere near Sydney, and it's nowhere near Sydney. But as far as the Indus Share goes, again, I have no answers. I would just say, because you're a sleuth in this department, DJ, just to continue to watch their social media. Maybe you'll get some hints there. But I have no faith anymore. I mean, maybe I'll be proven wrong next week, but I have no faith. There's no evidence of them returning after a very good program and fun program with The Rock, that helped Jinder Mahal anyway. And then the world title match against Seth, in which the Indus Share actually showed up. That was it, and I hope that's not the peak of their career. We haven't even seen anything from them yet. We haven't seen the best days. So I would say just watch their social media, and maybe you can gather and do some digging on when they could return. All right, let's keep the train rolling here.
Hey, Matt, this is Jason from Eugene. I'm just sitting here thinking on a nice sunny day about Cody and his story. Just one of my favorite pastimes, but this new idea of cinema in WWE and everything being this majestic story, as we see with the Bloodline. one thing that keeps coming to my mind is that picture of Dusty Rhodes holding that championship that was taken from him on that is Paul, where like Cody's story starts and comes from. He wants to win a championship that his dad never had, where he held for a few seconds, and keeps coming to mind that what they're going to do is have Cody win that thing and hold it up like his dad for a brief moment until Damian Priest comes in with the money in the bank and takes it away from him. I think that is going to that's what's going to happen at WrestleMania, in my mind. Anyway, the only thing that would stop it is, Roman Reigns wanting to beat all the records, which we're tired of. Anyway, thanks for your show, Matt. Have a good day.
That absolutely could be the case where Damian Priest does cash in. We all think it's going to be against Seth or against Drew, whoever wins that match at Mania. But yeah, what about Roman? What about the Undisputed title? Hell, I mean, what about the Intercontinental? I mean, I guess he could, but that's a heck of a point. We're all discounting the fact that briefcase can be cashed in for any championship in the company. So why not? But yeah, I would agree. My favorite pastime as well is kind of just sitting outside, getting a nice glass of iced tea, putting up my feet after a long day at work, and just thinking about Cody and his dad and his journey, and when I get to see the next chapter of his story. I mean, that's really what I like to do when I come home. When I'm at work, I'm at my desk, and I'm just like, it's all I can think about. It's just getting home to sit and think about and ponder and stare off into the distance at the horizon and ponder Cody's story. It is, and I'd really recommend that everybody try this when they get home. It's very introspective. It helps you develop your own story and be able to relate to him. I actually started growing, believe it or not, I started growing blonde hair. It almost looked like bleach hair. I got a couple of hairs going on now. I started to see a suit form around my body. It was this beautiful blazer. And I heard barking in the distance and saw a little white creature. It looked like a dog. And so it's amazing. Just thinking about Cody Rhodes can manifest all these things into reality. So I'd really recommend that everybody try this when they come home. So, all right. Well, thank you for that. And let's keep going.
Hey, it's Kyle for Baltimore. So I wanted to talk about this whole Becky Lynch problem that people have for some reason. I don't really get it. Becky has not been in the title picture for an entire year. She's been focusing heavily all year long. Started off with Bayley, then transitioned to Trish Stratus, then she was on NXT. She's been sidelined and hasn't been. They've kept Becky and Rhea separated for an entire year, and had Becky busy with doing her own thing, and Rhea Ripley doing really nothing credible as women's champion. Let's just be honest, she just has it. She's now super over now. I am not expecting Becky to win the championship at all. I'm not. Rhea Ripley's fantastic. I'm a Rhea Ripley fan. But I just don't really understand the hate of Becky Lynch. What has she done throughout this last year to piss everyone off just because she became the number one contender to face Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania? And people thinking it should have been Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. Fortunately, Liv Morgan is not super over enough right now to face Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. Maybe down the line in the future, maybe at Backlash or maybe even at SummerSlam. I do want to see the feud between Rhea and Liv will happen, but later on this year. The Becky match may be just a one and done, which is fine. But I guess my question is this. What's with all the hate of Becky Lynch? What has this woman actually done to get this massive negative reaction for a lot of people and not caring to see Becky and Rhea for WrestleMania? What is it? What has Becky done what has Becky done to get a lot of people hating on this woman because of what? She hasn't been in the title picture, like I said. She's been in these dead feuds throughout the entire year. And so her being a title picture should be a good thing for both Becky and Rhea. I don't see a negative here. And they can hold off to Liv later on this year. So that's my question. What is the problem with Becky Lynch with a lot of people? Because I don't really understand the hate that Becky is getting when she has never been in the, hasn't been in the title picture all year long. So that's my main question I have for you and pretty much everyone who's hated on Becky Lynch. So that's it. That's my question, but that's it. Thanks for a call. Bye.
Oh, Kyle. Okay, let me, and actually, Anthony DeMarco and I covered this pretty extensively. Maybe you're indirectly responding to what we talked about, but let me kind of summarize what the reason for the kind of negative, or really, I don't even know what's negative. It's just kind of ho-hum. It's not like people are outright rejecting Becky. You hear the reaction for her, and it's still positive. But here's the thing. On paper, this program should be big money. On paper, Becky versus Rhea, which, by the way, has already happened before, should be a big deal. And on paper it is. But when you translate it to real life, here's what's happened. Yes, Becky Lynch has been in dead feuds. And her character has had zero evolution since she went back to being the man after her heel turn. No evolution. Her program with Trish Stratus really was part of it. And I don't blame Trish. It went on way too long. Becky has not done anything that has ignited the fans behind her. It's the same character that we saw back at WrestleMania 35, 5 years ago. She's the same person. Back then, she was the underdog. Back then, the fans were pushing her towards the main event. They wanted Becky Lynch. They saw the mistreating of creative to her. And when she turned heel against Charlotte, famously, that turned her into the biggest babyface in the entire company. That was a time that the fans hadn't seen Becky Lynch in the main event before, at least winning the main event. So the fans wanted it. Now, if you fast forward 5 years later, you put her in some dead programs for many, many months. She went over to hide in NXT, which nothing wrong with that, but most mainstream fans don't watch NXT. So they just kind of saw glimpses of her working with Tiffany Stratton, and that was about it. And you take her out of the mainstream public eye for a while, bring her back, and she just doesn't have that fire anymore. There's a element missing. Her character is, as I've said, it's kind of boring. I'm not against her. See, that's the thing. It's not hate for Becky. It's indifference. Indifference is different than hate or rejection. Fans will accept this, but kind of just begrudgingly. And the reason is not just because was in dead feuds and her character hasn't really had any kind of evolution over the last couple of years. And that's all true. But moreover, the fans recognize there are better options on the roster. You want to know who? Bianca Belair, Exhibit A. They haven't crossed paths yet in a one-on-one scenario on the main roster. How? It's WrestleMania 40. Now's the time to do that stuff. How has that not happened? I know Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill can work with anybody. Okay, and a big name. Becky Lynch versus Jade Cargill is more interesting to me. But the fans also are. Here's the other thing. We look at Rhea Ripley, and the fans are more organically behind Rhea Ripley than they are with Becky. So when you put her against a heel that's not really a heel, that the fans are like want to see still be champion, it's, it puts the fans in a position to choose. And when they look at it and go, yeah, but I don't know, Rhea's run is just getting going. She might be splitting from the Judgment Day. This is so much fun. The story's really interesting. And Rhea Ripley's a captivating character. And then you have Becky Lynch on the other side of, well, yeah, we've kind of seen this act before. And we kind of know what to expect here. She can put on all the different hats she wants and try to pretend that, things are good. But the reality is, I think most people are bored with her character. That's all. And you know what you do? You change things up. How do you change them? That's not for me to decide. I'm not in creative. Perhaps it's a heel turn. Perhaps. That sounds too easy, though. Perhaps just giving her an edge. Maybe some new music. I don't know. Just something needs to change with her. And I maybe, honestly, just going away for like 4 or 5 months. That's not going to happen. But I'm just throwing crap out there. I mean, I don't know the solution. I just know what the symptoms are. And they are, fans are bored with her character. They see Rhea Ripley as the future. Becky Lynch is the past. And they also see better options against Rhea Ripley than Becky Lynch. And they aren't on the journey to see, there's no organic movement of, oh man, I can't wait till Becky Lynch is champion again. That's going to be so great. I know Becky Lynch hasn't been champion in 2 years, but it still feels like it was 2 months ago, not 2 years ago. It still does. So that's what it is. It's not hate for Becky. It's just not that organic love that we all had for her. It's just kind of mild indifference for her. That's what it is. The best way I can explain it. So I'm not hating on Becky. I'm just stating how I feel about her character, which is meh. M-E-H is exactly how I and I think a significant number of fans feel. M-E-H. Meh. All right. I'm being over dramatic. Let's go to our next one.
As the French guy here, your current European champion. I've been listening to the Raw review, Matt, and I have to disagree on one thing. It is about your take on the Rhea Ripley outfits at the Elimination Chamber. To be honest, in my opinion, the French guy opinion is that Rhea Ripley, as much as she is a star, she is a main eventer. I don't think she is that talented. I think most of the credit of her is to be credited to her character and the way she portrayed herself, which is, of course, what you want in your career. However, addressing your criticism, it's that Rhea Ripley is over at the moment because of her outfits, because of her comments saying to Becky Lynch that she will be the man, she will be on top and everything. Those quote unquote intimacy allowances. She's clearly in a character she is clearly referencing some, like, how would I say, it's a PG show, but you know what I mean. Her comments being, oh, she's the mommy, she's handling Dominic Mysterio in a way, she is on top, everything. Like, I believe her character is solely being a dominant woman in the intimate kind of term, I would say. And to address your criticism, that's exactly the kind of reaction she wants to have, because she's not talented just by her character and her outfit and her attitude, but also because she has talent. She wants to portray herself as much as possible in this mommy character, and having those trends about her outfits, her provocative quote unquote, but that's what she wants, and I agree on the fact that that's the right move to do for her. And yeah, that's it for me. Bye.
Oh man, how dare you disagree with me? Everyone in the sound of my voice should agree with me 100% of the time with everything I say. I think my wife would have something to say about that, but that's cool. I mean, hey, I think the Rhea Ripley comments I made, which I stand by, if anyone thinks, again, I'm backing down, I'm not. It's more of a general concern I have for the women's division. That's all. Rhea Ripley is a example of, and again, she's very successful and she's continuing to be successful, but not because of her outfits. I would say in spite of her outfits, she has been. It's the character that grabs you, right? As you said, it's not her outfits that grab you. Well, at least in a deep level, it may superficially, right? Like those superficial attributes are just that. They're surface level. They can help a character, but they don't make a character. How many times have you seen characters come and go with outlandish crap? I mean, look at Kairi Sane. She's a pirate princess. What? I mean, you see all these outlandish outfits. Her outfits are even a little bit, scandalous, but the fans aren't gravitating towards her. It's in-ring ability, on-screen presence, confidence, and an understanding of what your character is and isn't. I mean, and Rhea Ripley checks all the boxes. my concern is really about the superficial stuff. It's not about her being successful, or some people take it as, oh, he's scared of a dominant woman. I don't even want to go there, right? Like, please spare me the hyperbole garbage. It's not that. I'm not talking to you, Alex. I'm talking just generally. I can hear the criticisms. It's just that I am an advocate of the exact thing that you think I'm against, which is the women moving forward. Okay? The women have moved forward incredibly over the last 5 to 10 years. They have moved from irrelevant to the main event of WrestleMania and continue to do so. And the women's roster has never been deeper. And they don't need outside help like Ronda Rousey anymore. In fact, Ronda Rousey coming in is a bad thing. I'm not a Ronda Rousey fan at all in any regard. But my point is, the women, I think, at times use their sexuality, especially on social media, not so much overtly on camera like in the 90s. I mean, but I think the women overtly sometimes go a little too far with relying on the superficial in WWE, where they're posting things that it's just has nothing to do with wrestling. It's all about, look at my butt, look at the front, look at how curvy I am. I mean, even Jade Cargill's guilty of this. And people said, well, what about the men? Here's the thing. It's a male-dominated audience with a male species that is very much, they gravitate towards visual. Men are much more visual than women. It's just a fact. And when you put the sexuality part above any other part of the character, or you're just looking at the wrestlers are only putting out really just sexual content. Not porn, but stuff that it's borderline and has nothing to do with the wrestling. Well, then how am I supposed to look at you from an objective standpoint and then also not sexualize you because you're doing it to yourself? But here's the sin. The sin is noticing. That's the problem. And I'm an advocate for the women moving forward. I hope one of them main events WrestleMania night 1. I hope they do. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, you can make a case for it. I want women's wrestling to move forward. And I get bad vibes when the women wear outfits that are distracting to the general male audience, and any straight male out there that looks at this, like the outfit Rhea Ripley was wearing that very much showed out her backside, very much, especially in certain maneuvers that we all saw. You look at this and go, you cannot tell me that that's distracting. That's not distracting. You're lying to yourself, or you're lying to me if you didn't think it was. It just is. End of story. And even her using the mommy on top stuff, it's overtly sexual. We all know what she's referencing, but also kind of on top. Oh, you mean I see what you did there. It could go both ways. You mean on top of the division, but also blank, blank, blank. Got it. It is clever. And it's gotten her, it helps get her over, and it's a clever line. I just don't want the women overusing that strategy to the point where the women are more looked at as sex symbols than they are of actual wrestlers. And I'm a big advocate of wrestling on a wrestling show. We aren't watching, we aren't watching a runway show, a modeling show with women and only care about what they wear and what they look. And that's how the show is done. Wrestling has so much more to it. And the women only got taken seriously when that stuff stopped. So now when I see little bits of it coming back, I get critical of it because I don't want the women going back. Yet the same people who are listening to me argue this are the ones who think I want to put them in, t-shirts and jeans, and think I want to, dictate how they should look. No, I'm advocating for the very thing that you think I'm trying to stop, which is women's progression in wrestling. I like it. I want it. It's a good thing. It has been very successful, and successful in spite of the sexuality that continues to plague it. And it's just going to be an element of it. And I understand that. I understand sexuality is just a part of it. The women are very proud of their physiques. They show them off, and that's fine. But here's the thing. I think that when they're in their attire, it needs to be at a point where even the straight red-blooded male isn't going to look at that and go, oh man, I don't even care what she's doing in the ring. I just want to look at her. That's the point I don't want. I don't want that. I want the women to continue. And what made them really good and what made them shoot to the main event of WrestleMania and continue to be there almost every year is wrestling and being exceptionally good in the ring and being believable and all that. That is what does it. Just compelling television, compelling characters, and kicking ass in the ring. That's what I want. Shoot me, right? Because I want quality wrestling from a wrestling show that doesn't try to bring back the elements that actually made the women objects back in the 90s and 2000s. See, that's the thing that kills me. Yet people take this and go, I know there are people out, I can tell you right now in the sound of my voice, oh, what a male chauvinist. He's advocating for the patriarchy. I know what people are, and I don't care because there's no argument there. It's just, buzzwords that people throw around. I understand. But I cannot say this any clearer. The women have progressed in spite of all that crap and have moved forward when the sexual part of their presentation was removed to the point where the wrestling became the focus, the characters became the focus. That is how the women move forward and will continue to move forward. So I think I've exhausted myself here in that explanation. I expected this kind of reaction from people, and that's fine. I'm not angry. It's a topic that I think though it's not just Rhea. That's the thing. I know I'm picking on Rhea because that's when I really noticed it this past last weekend. But other women on the roster are still guilty of it, like a Liv Morgan. Yeah, you look at her outfit, like what is she in a schoolgirl outfit for? We all know kind of like what that means, right? Like we all know what that is. Why? You're 30 years old. What are you wearing that for? And Charlotte Flair wears things too that, she likes to show off her front, and then, I get it, but also Charlotte Flair she doesn't do it in a way that is, I think, she knows what she's got, but her outfits are conservative enough that when she's wrestling and kicking ass like nobody else can, they're not as distracting as especially what Rhea Ripley was wearing. And again, my opinions. They're my opinions, not yours. And you can totally disagree. This is going to be a fun debate over the next few weeks. I feel like I've opened Pandora's box. But, alrighty. I feel like I'm going to be repeating what I just said. But I think this is the last voicemail and we'll finish up.
Hey, it's the Waz. So, I don't know if this is a prediction or just something I think would be an interesting way to book things. We see Grayson Waller having conversations with the Bloodline, like backstage type of thing. And I just wonder, is this a way to rope him in? But then we also see the whole, Austin Theory looking at him weird, like, you weren't there for me, you haven't been there for me, maybe you're not really the friend I think you should be, type of thing. And is it a way to maybe cause them to go at each other, but also turn Theory face and give someone else to back up, surprisingly, Cody at WrestleMania to stop the Bloodline from doing what they're doing, because Austin's mad at Grayson and Grayson Waller's with the Bloodline. Just a thought, just throwing it out there. Possibly could be a good idea. Take it easy, guys.
You may want to answer your phone. I think it sounded like your phone going off, but if you're calling me from your phone, I don't know how that works. Either way, there was something buzzing in the background. It sounded like you had your phone on a table or something. But anyway, I've heard this before early in last night's show that we could have that happen where Grayson Waller and Austin Theory have a program and Austin Theory turns babyface. I'm for that because Austin Theory is floating in the middle of nowhere being the punchline for Grayson Waller's show and getting his ass kicked all the time. So I'm for an Austin Theory babyface turn. Yes, I think that would help, but I don't know what he has anything to do with, a main event of or interfering in Seth or helping Cody rather. I'm not sure how that plays into anything, but I do know, I'm very curious as to what the long-term plan is for these two. I think if this becomes a trend where these two seemingly have friction in the next few weeks, then you're probably onto something. But it's very possible that given they were in Australia, they didn't want the fans to turn on Grayson Waller, even though he's a heel. This could have just been a one-off kind of funny thing where he mentions, I did everything I could to help you. It was really, it's funny because he did absolutely nothing and laid back. He said it in passing. It was very well delivered. I think that that could have been a one-off. Just as likely, it could be the start of them breaking up and turning Theory babyface. Yes, it could be. Again, we're going to look for trends. And right now, we're on a small trend of friction. Let's see if it continues over the next several weeks to something being eventually blown off between these two at WrestleMania, where they split or whatever. It's really just about trends. Let's see where they go. If the next week they act like nothing happened, they're in a tag team match, they win their match, they're hugging each other, then no, I don't know what the end game is. But if it continues, then I think it is a split of the two guys. So, all right. That's going to end it for me tonight, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you made it this far, again, I know that there's a lot of very non-wrestling topics making its way into the show, and I know that a lot of you don't want to listen to that. If it's emailed to me, I'll answer it, but if it is something that you guys are like, hey, can you just take that stuff out of the show that's non-wrestling related? I am already considering doing that anyway, where I may just make it a Patreon-only, non-wrestling topic type of show. So, just let me know. Seriously, if you're like, hey, can you just take that out of your show? I don't listen to wrestling shows to listen about non-wrestling stuff. Fair argument. Fair, right? Because we did discuss at length some things that have nothing to do with pro wrestling. So let me know. But if you enjoy kind of this mix of wrestling and non, then I don't know. It's really going to depend on you guys to let me know. I can see it going both ways, where I get emails that are like, I really enjoyed the show up until you started talking about, X, Y, and Z. Then fair. Yeah, I don't listen. I wouldn't listen to a sports podcast about baseball and then they start talking about, how to mow your lawn. What's the best way to paint your house? I don't mind a little chit chat here and there that's off topic, but let me know. I could see this devolving into much more because I feel like I opened Pandora's box with this topic. So let me know. That's really all I have to say about it. I don't know how you're going to let me know. You can let me know on Twitter at wrestling_audio or X now, wrestling_audio, or just search out the WWE podcast. Either way, I'm there. Let me know what you think. If you want me to continue integrating a little bit of non-wrestling talk in this, or if you're like, hey, can you just put it on your Patreon only side? I'd be more than happy to do that too. And then, patrons can choose whether or not they want to listen. And that way it's, hey, this is clearly not a wrestling podcast. That way you can choose whether or not you want to listen. But, all right, that'll do it for me. If you've made it this far, then hopefully, you don't want to strangle me too much. If you do, we can just have a civil conversation. I'm open to that too. People these days, I think civil conversation is a foreign concept, but all right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Consider going to Patreon. I may be posting a lot of interesting stuff there soon. So take care, and I'll talk to you next time. Step into the world of hilarity and storytelling with The King Ducky Show. Join the one and only King Ducky on a journey filled with laughter, wit, and endless entertainment. Whether it's sharing hilarious tales from his or interviewing the most eccentric characters, each episode promises to tickle your funny bone and ignite your imagination. So gather round and enjoy the Laughter Brigade. Subscribe to The King Ducky Show on your favorite podcast platform today. It's The King Ducky Show, where every tale is crowned with laughter. The podcast can be found on all music streaming services.